By now, you've seen the horrific images and taken in the numbers. 1,400 murdered, 4,100 injured, and more than 200 civilians taken hostage by Hamas, a barbaric terrorist organization surpassing even ISIS in their brutality. At this moment in time, Israel is facing enemies on multiple fronts. Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, multiple terrorist groups inside the region that the world calls the West Bank, and even Iran is threatening Israel from afar. Israel has vowed to eradicate Hamas in the Gaza Strip, amassing their forces on Israel's southern borders. They're also preparing for an attack by Hezbollah, an Iranian-controlled terrorist group in Lebanon whose firepower and capabilities far surpass those of Hamas. While Israel is facing these massive threats on their northern and southern borders, there's another threat that they're facing from within. 500,000 Israeli Jews, a quarter of whom are under the age of 14, live in Judea and Samaria, Israel's Biblical Heartland. These Jewish communities in a region sometimes referred to as the West Bank are surrounded by some 2 million Palestinian Arabs, the majority of whom support Hamas, or at the very least support some form of violence against Israel and the Jewish people. This is where we come in. Our organization, Hayuvel and the Israel Guys, have been placed strategically in the center of Judea and Samaria to serve, defend, and equip the Jewish communities of Israel's Biblical Heartland. That's why we launched Operation Itai. Operation Itai's mission is to airlift emergency supplies and equipment to the small Jewish communities and farms located in Judea and Samaria during this time of crisis. Who was Itai? 2 Samuel chapter 15 tells a remarkable story. Itai was a man from Gath who brought his 600-man army to Jerusalem to join King David. The day after he arrived in Israel, war broke out and Absalom was preparing to overrun Jerusalem. Not knowing if he would be victorious or not, David said to Itai, "Why should you come along with us? Go back and stay with King Absalom. You are a foreigner, an exile from your homeland. You came only yesterday. And today shall I make you wander about with us when I do not know where I am going? Go back and take your people with you. May the Lord show you kindness and faithfulness." Itai could have abandoned David. After all, King David's odds weren't that great. Itai did not have a stake in the game. He had only arrived in Israel the day before. Instead of taking the easy route and either going home or joining himself to Absalom, however, Itai replied to King David, "As surely as the Lord lives, and as my lord the king lives, wherever my lord the king may be, whether it means life or death, there will your servant be." In life or death, Itai, a man from the nations, joined himself to the house of David. The Bible tells us Itai was from Gath. Do you know who else was from Gath? That's right, a certain giant who invaded Israel and attempted to wipe out God's chosen people. Instead of aligning himself with his gigantic neighbor and fighting against Israel, Itai traveled to Israel and decided to stand with King David and the Jewish people, whether in life or death. Right now, we are issuing the call to you, those from the nations who support Israel. Will you join Operation Itai and stand with the Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria during their greatest time of need? Visit OperationItai.com right now to find out more about this incredibly important project, or click the link down below. A few days after Hamas invaded southern Israel and brutally massacred so many men, women, and children, we began receiving phone calls. Israel immediately called up hundreds of thousands of reservists from all over the country, with many of their most elite reserve soldiers coming from Judea and Samaria. At this very moment, more than 500,000 soldiers are actively serving in Israel's military, the majority of them stationed on the northern and southern fronts. That means that 500,000 Jewish people living in Israel's heartland are now inadequately equipped to defend their homes, towns, and farms, should God forbid the situation escalate in this region. Already, the Palestinian Authority is instructing mosques to broadcast a message for the Arabs in this region to join the war and commit genocide against the Jewish people. With their fathers, brothers, husbands, and sons serving on Israel's borders, many of the security teams for these Jewish communities are spread thin and have less than adequate equipment and resources to defend themselves. They're lacking things like protective vests, helmets, night vision goggles, binoculars, flashlights, and much, much more. Operation Itai is sourcing, purchasing, and shipping equipment from all over the world and airlifting the supplies straight to Israel, where we will pick them up at the port and deliver everything straight to those who need it most here in Judea and Samaria. We've already been in motion for the last 2 weeks. Check out the impact we have already made right here.
Thank you very much, Ayovel. I very appreciate it. And the hills that we have a drone to guard our pasture land and to guard our family. The area here, the hills, is the hills that David went in and met Shaul. This is Midbar Ma'on over here, and this is Midbar Zif. Thank you very much.
The first shipment of helmets has arrived. We're getting these out to the field right now. Also, these flashlights, these are great. Bright flashlights. A lot of the guys on guard duty don't even have these basic supplies are not out there. So guys, again, thank you, and we're getting these straight to the field today.
Today we're helping. We've got flashlights, we've got bulletproof or helmets that we're bringing in. So the first of the stuff coming in from the States is going here to help these guys.
Thank you very much.
They're on a serious front here with Jordan and everybody in the area. So thank you, Adas.
Thank you so much.
Stay strong.
Thank you.
This is the Air 3 drone for the Avino farm here, next to Ariel. Eitan, Vakasha. Stay safe. Appreciate it.
As you can see, we're already making an impact for communities, farms, and families all over Israel's biblical heartland. Right now, it is no exaggeration to say that Israel is facing their greatest challenge in decades. They have enemies on multiple fronts, both within their own country and abroad. Thankfully, Israel is a strong, unified nation with one of the world's best and most advanced militaries. That doesn't mean, however, that they don't need your prayers and support. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob never slumbers or sleeps whilst watching over Israel. Amazingly, though, God chooses to enact his plans and promises through people just like you and just like me. Right now, we can choose to be silent, and ultimately, God will raise up someone to stand with Israel from elsewhere. Or we can fight against Israel, just like a certain giant named Goliath from Gath did. Or we can be like Itai, a righteous man from the nations who decided to stand unconditionally with King David and ultimately with the land and people of Israel. Itai and his small but mighty army of 600 men defended, equipped, and protected the people of Israel in their hour of greatest need. You and I have a choice on whether or not we will be an Itai in our generation. Let us not sit idly by as Israel fights for her very survival. Instead, stand 100% with Israel by equipping the small farms and communities in Judea and Samaria through Operation Itai. By standing with Israel now, you will be a part of seeing God's chosen land and people be victorious over her enemies. Go to OperationItai.com today or click the link down in the description below to stand with Israel.